Hello everybody, welcome to the session on the process of change, the four causes. The four causes are elements of an influential principle in Aristotelian thought whereby explanations of change or movement is classified into four fundamental types of answer to the question why. Aristotle wrote that we do not have knowledge of a thing until we have grasped its why, that is to say, its cause. While there are cases where identifying a cause is difficult or in which causes might merge, Aristotle held that his four causes provided an analytical scheme of general applicability. Aitia, from Greek, word that Aristotle used to refer to the casual explanation that has traditionally been translated as cause, but the specialized technical philosophical usage of the word cause does not correspond exactly to its most usual applications in everyday English language. The translation of Aristotle's idea is nearest to current ordinary language could be question or casual explanation, although any such terms may mask the fact that Aristotelian consideration of the four causes to be more fundamental in nature than mere explanations. Aristotle held that there were four kinds of answers to why questions. They are matter, a change or movement's material cause is the aspect of the change or movement which is determined by the material that composes the moving or changing things. For a table, that might be wood; for a statue, which might be bronze or marble. Form. A change or movement's formal cause is a change or movement caused by the arrangement, shape or appearance of the thing changing or moving. Aristotle says, for example, that the ratio 2:1 and number is general is the cause of the octave. Agent. A change or movement's efficient or moving cause consists of things apart from the thing being changed or moved, which interact so as to be an agency of the change or movement. For example, the efficient cause of a table is a carpenter or a person working as one, and according to Aristotle, the efficient cause of a boy is the father. End or purpose. A change or movement's final cause is that for the sake of which a thing is what it is. For a seed, it might be an adult plant. For a sailboat, it might be sailing. For a ball at the top of a ramp, it might be coming to rest at the bottom. The four causes are not mutually exclusive. For Aristotle, several answers to the question why have to be given to explain a phenomenon and especially the actual configuration of an object. For example, if asking why a table is such and such, a complete explanation taking into account the four causes would sound like this. This table is solid and brown because it is made of wood, matter. It does not collapse because it has four legs of equal length, form. It is as such because a carpenter made it starting from a tree, agent. It has these dimensions because it is to be used by men and women, end. In his philosophical writings, Aristotle used the Greek word agen, a neuter singular form of an adjective. The Greek word had meant perhaps originally in a legal context what or who is responsible, mostly but not always in a bad sense of guilt or blame. Alternatively, it could mean to the credit of someone or something. The appropriation of this word by Aristotle and other philosophers reflects how the Greek experience of legal practice influenced the concern in Greek thought to determine what is responsible. The word developed other meanings, including its use in philosophy in a more abstract sense. About a century before Aristotle, the anonymous author of the Hippocratic text on ancient medicine had described the essential characteristics of a cause. We must therefore consider the cause of each medical condition to be those things which are such that when they are present the condition necessarily occurs, but when they change to another combination it ceases. In the present context, Aristotle used the four causes to provide different answers to the question, because of what? The four answers to this question illuminate different aspects of how a thing comes into being or of how an event takes place. Material cause. Aristotle was the first philosopher to identify all four kinds of causes. Each cause is a different kind of answer to the question why. There are four kinds of answers to this question, that is, answers which identify the matter, form, source and end. Thus the question why is this statue, Aristotle can give four sorts of answers. This is a statue because it is made of marble, because it is in the shape of David, because Michelangelo sculpted it, because Michelangelo wanted to depict the David's picture in marble, because he needed the money perhaps. An account of each kind of cause is important for a fully scientific account of whatever a philosopher is explaining. Aristotle developed his account of the four causes from his analysis of change. In every change there is, first of all, something that receives a new determination. Before undergoing the change, it is in potency to a new determination. Then, under the action of an efficient source, it receives a new actualization. The marble upon which the sculptor works is in potency to receiving the new determination which the sculptor gives it. This new determination is the form of the statue. This example of marble receiving the form of the statue is a case accidental change, since what comes to be is a new accidental form, the shape, in what is already a substance, the marble. There are also cases of substantial change, that is, cases of new substances coming to be. Aristotle calls this kind of change generation and corruption. For example, when eat an apple, the apple stops being an apple and becomes part of me. The other principal case of substantial change occurs when any plant or animal which is a substance ceases to be what it was. That is, the death of an animal, for example, is a substantial change, since the corpse, a collection of substances without any cohesion, comes to be from what previously did have a cohesion, that is, a living animal. On this view, substantial changes are occurring all the time in nature as new substances come to be by generation and old substance pass away by being eaten or simply by dying and decomposing. Since it seems that anything might ultimately change into anything else, Aristotle postulated that there is an ultimate stuff that underlies the radical potency of everything to turn into anything else. And since Aristotle calls whatever is the bearer of potency the matter in any change, this ultimate stuff is called prime matter. Prime matter in its own theoretical self is without any determination, but it is mere potentiality as such. This is not to say that prime matter is ever the immediate and direct subject of a change on which any actual agent acts. It exists only in actual determinate things as the radical potency to undergo limitless changes. Prime matter is only and always found with some substantial form that gives it determination. Yet, although it never exists in and of itself, prime matter is real, it is a real principle of change, it is the real potency that every material thing has to undergo an indefinite amount of change. Therefore, the prime matter is the simplest bodies of the material sublunary world. The four elements earth, air, fire and water themselves contain contraries and can be transmuted into one another. But if they change, then they presuppose composition of potentiality and act. Air, for instance, is air but can become fire. It has the form of actuality of air, but it also has the potentiality of becoming fire. But it is logically necessary to presuppose prior to the potentiality of becoming fire or any other particular and definite kind of things, a potentiality for becoming at all, that is a bare potentiality. Modern nuclear physics tells us that the matter of everything can ultimately and theoretically be converted into energy, and energy can similarly be converted into matter. Nevertheless, there still seems to be some principle that underlies each of these two ways of being physical, but cannot exist without being one or the other, matter or energy. Thus, it seems that we still have a theoretical need for the notion of prime matter. Formal cause. Each thing is composed not only of matter but also of form. Form is the principle of determination which accounts for the thing being the kind of thing it is. As matter is the principle of potentiality, of the ability to become other than it is, form is the principle of actuality, of the thing being the sort of thing it is. In natural things, the substantial form is specifically the same for all members of the same species. That is, the substantial form of a thing accounts for it being the sort of thing it is, for belonging to the species to which it does not belong. Thus, substantial form, considered apart from any matter in which it resides, is universal. Although form connotes shape or configuration, Aristotle means by form something more. In the case of living things, it is very clear that to explain behavior we must refer not to surface configuration but to the functional organization that the individuals share with other members of their species. This is the form. This and not the shape remains the same as long as the creature is the same creature. The lion may change its shape, get thin or fat. Without ceasing to be the same lion, its form is not its shape, but its soul, the set of vital capacities, the functional organization in virtue of which it lives and acts. A corpse has the same shape as a living man, but it is not a man since it cannot perform the activities appropriate to a man. When I ask for the formal account of lion behavior, I am not then asking just for a reference to tawny color or great weight. I am asking for an account of what it is to be a lion, how lions are organized to function, what vital capacities they have, and how these interact. And it is this again, rather than an enumeration of its material constituents, that will provide the simplest, general and relevant account for the scientist interested in explaining and predicting lion behavior. The arrangements of parts are what members of a series have in common. It is the reason that they belong to the same species. The substantial form is the cause of this arrangement, and the soul is the substantial form for living things. Aristotle thus is not a materialist in that he believes things cannot be reduced to their atomic constitution. Rather, Aristotle appeals to the formal cause to account for the reason the material constituents are arranged as they are. Just as prime matter cannot exist without some substantial form is not insatiated usually except in some material substrate. That is, for most animals a soul cannot exist except in body. Moreover, a soul of a certain kind of plant or animal can only form a body of a certain specific type and arrangement as determined by the kind of living thing, plant or animal, whose soul makes this body to be a living body. Thus, when the body of a plant or an animal ceases to be a living body, the soul ceases as well. To suppose that the same soul might exist as a dog, a lion and a human being would be to Aristotle and Aquinas totally incomprehensible. They do not believe in a transmigration of souls. Although the souls of almost all living things cease to exist with the death of the body, the case of the human soul presents Aquinas and Aristotle with certain problems. efficient cause. The efficient cause of a motion may be also internal to the thing. In natural motions, the efficient cause of the motion is the natural form of the thing that changes. This applies to all the kinds of motions there are, that is, natural alterations, an apple turning from green to red, the growth of plants and animals, and all natural local motions. This doctrine of natural motion even applies to inanimate bodies, since for Aristotle and Aquinas, natural bodies tend to their natural place. Fire tends up, earth tends down. The internal source for the motion of growth for all living things are soul. Aquinas uses the notion of efficient cause in various ways in the first 3 of his 5 proofs for the existence of God. The basic line of reasoning claims that we observe effects that must have been produced by some efficient cause. That cause itself is either caused by something prior or it is uncaused. Since there cannot be an infinite regress in essentially subordinated causes, that is, causes that rely on prior causes to exercise their own causality, there must be some first cause which Aquinas believes must be God, of the all effects that follow from it. However, Aristotle believes that the world has always been in motion, and Aquinas believes, against the opinion of Saint Bonaventure, for example, that there is no way to prove or disprove this belief in the eternity of the world from a philosophical point of view. Aquinas therefore believes that it is an article of faith that the world had a beginning in time. Nevertheless, he still believes that even an eternal world requires an efficient cause to sustain the motions that occur within it, and a world stretching back into an infinite past nevertheless leads to the same conclusion that there is a God who is the first cause of that infinitely old world. The problem of whether the eternity of the world is a philosophically necessary conclusion and whether its truth implies the non-existence of God were exceedingly important problems for Aquinas. So, he wrote an entire work on the subject, on the eternity of the world. Final cause. According to Aristotle, the final cause is that for the sake of which motion happens. It is the end or purpose for which the motion takes place. It is easy to understand this doctrine if one considers motion which humans initiate. A sculptor sculpts in order to produce a statue, which he might do in order to make money. In nature, the final cause is not external to the thing that acts, but internal. Fruit does not grow to be food for humans and animals, but for the sake of generating another tree. Thus, the final cause is the full actualization of the form, that is, the mature adult of whatever species is generated. This doctrine has received the charge of anthropomorphism. However, for Aristotle, the fact that nature works always or for the most part to produce the same result is evidence that there is a genuine cause at work. The notion of final causality is used by Aquinas as the basis for another proof for the existence of God, that is the fifth way. It should be noted, however, that the proof does not say that there is a purpose to the whole universe and that this ultimate final cause is God. The proof merely asserts that something or other acts for an end which it does not know and does not choose, and that this fact shows that there is a cause of those things which directs them to the final causes. The notion of final cause is also the basis of Thomistic natural law. Analysis of 4 causes. The study of nature was a search for answers to the question why before and independently of Aristotle. A critical examination of the use of the language of causality by his predecessors, together with a careful study of natural phenomena, led Aristotle to elaborate a theory of causality. This theory is presented in its most general form in Physics 2.3 and in Metaphysics 5.5. In both texts, Aristotle argues that a final formal efficient or material cause can be given in answer to a why question. Although Aristotle's theory of causality is developed in the context of a science of nature, its application goes well beyond the boundaries of natural science. This is already clear from the most general presentation of the theory in Physics 2.3 and in Metaphysics 5.5. Here, the four causes are used to explain human action as well as artistic production. In addition, any theoretical investigation that there might be besides natural science will employ the doctrine of the four causes. Consider briefly the case of Aristotle's metaphysics. Here Aristotle is seeking wisdom. Part of the argument of the metaphysics is an attempt to clarify what sort of wisdom Aristotle is seeking. Suffice it to say that Aristotle conceives of this wisdom as a science of substance, that is, or as a part of a science of being qua being. What is important is that this science consists in a causal investigation, that is, a search for the relevant causes. This helps to understand why the most general presentation of Aristotle's theory of causality is repeated in almost the same words in Physics 2.3 and in Metaphysics 5.5. Although the physics and the metaphysics belong to two different theoretical enterprises, in both cases we are expected to embark on an investigation that will eventuate in causal knowledge, and this is impossible without a firm grasp of the interrelations between the four types of causes. Now, please try to answer some questions. What do you mean by the four causes? According to Aristotle, which were the four kinds of answers to why questions? How can we correlate modern nuclear physics to the four causes? What does Aristotle mean by form? How does Aquinas use the notion of efficient cause in various ways? How are Aristotle's the four causes and modern nuclear physics related? How does Aquinas use the notion of efficient cause in various ways in the first three of his 5 proofs? Compare the Aristotelian four causes in the thoughts of Francis Bacon. Now, books for further reading. Inefficient Causes by J. Annas, Philosophical Quarterly, 1982. Moravcsik on Explanation by J. Bojan, Synthes, 1974. Soul as Efficient Cause in Aristotle's Embryology, Philosophical Topics by A. Code, 1987. Aristotle's Four Big Causes by M. Hawkett, 1974. The Four Causes in Aristotle's Embryology, Apeiron, Special Issue Nature, Knowledge and Virtue, R. Kraut and T. Penner by M. Mathen. Aristotle on Adequate Explanations by J. M. Moravcsik, Synthes, 1974. Well, thank you for watching today's program. Hope this session was enriching. Goodbye.